I think Naimul, you can start, right? So
All right.
this is
Can you guys can see my screen, my shared screen?
Yes, we can.
yes.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you to North-South University and also NECU External Affairs for organizing this webinar. Let me start with introducing the topic of our this webinar. It's about higher studies in the US, its current challenges, and as well as its the solution or the smarter way to handle those challenges. So the main speaker for this webinar is Dr. Nazmul Haque. He's a proud NECU alumnus. He's successfully navigated through the journey from NECU to PhD and postdoctoral research in US. So he's gonna conduct the main topics or the main challenges or the solution we are gonna see related to higher studies in the US. But let me start the session by painting the broader picture of the higher studies abroad in general, not just in US. I'm gonna talk about a little bit about how the higher studies goes in terms of in the regions like Europe and US and also Australia. My name is Naimul Haque. I am currently doing a master's in electrical engineering. I'm fully funded. So which means that, along with my studies, I also work as a research assistant. And previously I was a lecturer as well as a assistant professor back when I was in my country, which is Bangladesh. So right now I'm from New York, and my brother, he's Dr. Nazmul Haque, he's joining us from Louisiana. So anyway, let me start the first part of our session, where I'm going to discuss about the academic structure, the funding opportunities, and as well as the right. So before we dive into the main talk, let me just spend some time talking about the key consideration or the key factors that we should consider before choosing one of these regions to do our higher studies, the USA, Europe, or Australia. So let's look at the key consideration or the key factors that you should consider when choosing these regions. So one of them is duration, how long the program is, and the funding condition, as well as the education structure and the language or the cultural differences or the barriers. And you should also consider your own academic or the career goal before you can go ahead and choose one of these regions to do your PhD or master's or higher studies in general. So here I'm going to talk about the key highlights about these regions. First of all, for US, for most of the PhD positions, they are generally fully funded, which means that your tuition will be waived. And also you'll be getting a stipend from the school or the fund or the funding which is for which you could come to the US. And one of the key highlights for the PhD, especially for the PhDs in US, is these programs are interdisciplinary, which means that if you come from a CS background, you get to work with a electrical background people or person, and your work will be more or less interdisciplinary. You have to put different fields together to get a work to get something done. And also the mentors or the professor, they're like the best in the world, and you'll get a very good strong mentorship. And in US you also have opportunity to work after you're done with your PhD or masters. The key highlights for Europe is, especially for masters, the tuition is much less than in US. And for the PhDs are more research focused. That means for in US, when you start your PhD, for 3 years you have to study for your qualifying exam, which is not same in Europe. In Europe, there is a research proposal already done by a professor. You just have to work on it, or maybe they say that we are interested in doing this thing, and you have to come up with a research proposal. So this thing is more or less research focused, and you'll be considered as an employee when you get a PhD position. And also the good thing about doing a PhD in Europe is it's faster. It takes less time. In Australia, most of the graduate programs are funded, but they are not like fully funded. They're more or less partially funded, and those funds come from government, and they are thesis based, which means that it's not like they have flexibility. You have to come up with your thesis and you have to work on it, and there is easier chance to get a permanent residency in Australia compared to the other places or other regions. So the question, which region is best for you, is depends on your background. It depends on the goal and your preferred research goal or model. So here I would like to give you a more clearer picture in order to decide which the region you should choose for your higher studies, giving you the differences on the pros and cons on studying in these regions. The first of all, I already talked about it. In US, the most of the graduate or the PhD, especially the PhD programs, are tuition waived, and you get a stipend to do the research or the assistantship. There is two type of assistantship offered by the school. One is research or TA, or teaching assistantship. The research is flexible, which means that during the 3 years of your qualifying study or before your qualifying exam, you can work on a proposal. You can come up with an idea, and you can talk with your supervisor that I think this is the way I should go, and I can do more if I work on this path. So the research is more flexible compared to Europe. You need a research proposal before you can start your PhD. So if your supervisor or whoever you're working under, if he finds that your proposal is good enough, then he'll accept, and you have to work on that specific topic. And the duration is 3 to 4 years. I'm talking about in terms of PhD. So why should you do your PhD? And these PhDs are usually 3 to 4 years. But one of the reason it's the time limit is short is because they need a master's degree already. You have to have a master's degree to get into a PhD. So that's why the time is a bit short. But in US, since there is a research flexibility and they don't usually require a master's before you start up your PhD, so it usually takes a longer time, usually 5 to 7 years if you don't have a master's to complete. And the competition is intense in US. So if you are really competitive, if you want research flexibility, and if you are more looking for fully funded position, US is one of your choices. And for Australia, same. I talked about it earlier that even if you don't get fully funded, you have the opportunity to get partially funding in most of the masters and as well as the PhD programs. I think the PhD programs are funded, but fewer intakes, which means that there's not much opportunities for PhD, but you can always look into the faculty's website and see that, if they are offering PhD or not. So one of the way to get a PhD in Australia is to contact the supervisor, which is not exactly the same in US, because in US, of course, you can get a PhD or get a supervisor when you contact them. This is one of the way, but you can also, if your profile is really good, you can apply to the program centrally, and the admission committee will assign a supervisor for you if you get accepted. And the duration in Australia is also low. It's 3 to 4 years, and it's easier to get a permanent residency and post-study work opportunity in Australia. And one of the important thing for US, the pros, is strong research and post-PhD pathway. So which means that if you have a PhD and you already know that, some of the best companies or the tech giants are in US, and they usually hire PhD students. So you have a really good career opportunity if you finish a PhD in US. So these are the factors you should consider before you choose one of the regions to do your higher studies. And these are the questions you should ask yourself before you choose one of these regions. So these questions are, what are your academic strengths? What are your career goals? Do you prefer a structure? For in Europe, it's more rigid, which means that the education structure is more structured, but you get more independence in US when you do your PhD. So do you want a structure? Do you want a constant a structure? Do you want to follow a structure, or you want to be more independent? So you should ask this question to yourself as well. And can you write a really strong research proposal right now? If you can do it, then you can choose Europe. But if you know that you have a little bit of research experience, you're not so sure, but you are really into research, or you want to take the academic path, US is one of the best choice for that. You should also consider the cost, duration, and post-study work. So anyway, now I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Nazmul Haque, a proud NSU alumni. He is currently doing a postdoctoral fellow at Tulane University, the School of Medicine. Dr. Nazmul Haque has successfully navigated the journey from NSU to PhD and postdoctoral research in the US. So he will walk you through the complete application process, from preparing your profile, writing a research proposal, getting funded, and also he'll touch on the life as an international student in US. And his insights will be especially valuable for planning to pursue a PhD or master's abroad. So I'm giving floor to Dr. Nazmul Haque. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. Let me share my screen first. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Is this in like the presenter view?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for the introduction. So like Naimul was saying, like, I'm a proud initiate, and basically, like, I got like, a lot of like, since my journey I have started, which is like from 2017, I came here for like PhD. And since then, like, I got like a lot of emails, a lot of like, texts, like, from the current student of NSU, asking like, a lot of questions about like, how to navigate this like an application process. But so I thought like, I always had the urge of like, giving something back to NSU and also to my country. So I thought of like, sharing my experience would be a best way to do. And so that's why like, I reached to like, NSU And thank you so much Fardin Bhai from external affair who has organized this particular event. I hope I can help at least some of the people sharing my experience. So I'm from a one-to-one batch. I was in pharmacy department. I finished my bachelor of pharmacy in 2016, and from there I straight it took from 2016 after I graduate. It took me a 1 year to come here. Actually, I had a study gap of 1 year. So Fardin Bhai gave me couple of questions that most of the people had, which is either study gap is going to be a problem, right? So which I want to address right now, which is if you have a study gap, let's say for 1 year or 2 year, that's not an issue, right? But I think if it's beyond 2 year, that can be an issue, right? But again, I want to clear that when you say study gap, that means you're doing nothing at all. But if people are doing some kind of work or job experience during that time, study gap is not you're out of study. It's also if you're doing some work relevant to your field, that doesn't count as study gap. So I just wanted to clear that one out. So after finishing in 2016, 1 year, I was doing all those grad applications, preparing for GRE and writing my SOP and everything, right? So it's actually a full-time job. I would say beyond full-time job. So you need to spend a lot of time, a lot of research you need to do. So basically Naimul has said what I'm gonna give an overview about research proposal and everything. But actually what I'm gonna do right now in my talk, the main sorry, the main takeaway is gonna be what are the things that you need to do your research on, right? That's the main takeaway. So excuse me. So after I came here in 2017, and I started my PhD in Southern Illinois University in pharmacology and neuroscience department, and I graduated in 2023. And afterwards, from 2023 till current, I'm doing my postdoctoral studies, which is as a postdoctoral fellow in endocrinology department. And I have my also lab mate here in this talk. He's Dr. Fahad Kadir. So then so without further delay, let's get started actually. So my agenda is going to be first selecting a country, right? So selecting a country which Naimul has already touched upon, so which I'm not gonna delve into that. Then some of the things that I'm gonna touch upon: how to choose the right program, then how to find the right professor, how to understand the research feed, then emailing the professor, then writing the SOP and LOR, and then what are the current challenges in USA, and what are the strategies to overcome those challenges. And at the same time, just a disclaimer, because we have a conflict of interest, which is we're gonna promote this the platform that we have created, which is gradmate.ai. This is a AI platform we have created, and we believe this platform gonna help a lot of students for navigating this whole process, right? So which Naimul's gonna talk more in detail in the later part of the presentation. All right, so first I just want to mention that the grad applications can be daunting, right? So it's a very daunting process, and there is a reason I don't have any here, because it's very stressful and it's very kind of scary, right? So if you go to social media, you'll see lots of people have a lot of questions, a lot of query, a lot of experience. This is I took from Reddit. There's a bunch of thousands of questions you'll find because people has zero idea, or less to none experience about how to navigate this whole process, right? So I just want to kind of share one of the experience just to just to give you guys an idea about like, if you have not done your like, DD or your research properly, what can be the repercussions. So this person like, who shared this whole experience in Reddit, I thought like, this would be like good thing to like share, just to like, scare you guys because like, I think like, just to have an idea like, how a small like mistake, how this can be as costly, right? So long story short, like this person like, she has like, just for the sake of like having a grad school, she started like, application, but it was like, she started the applications a little bit late. So without doing enough research, she just like, just the fact that like, she has enrolled to a grad school, she like, went to that grad school, and then like, what, when she went there, she saw like, there is like all sort of like unprofessionalism, starting from like, her housing, from the academic like, response she got, and at the same time like, from the faculty. So when she emailed the faculty said like, okay, basically I don't remember the conversation that we had, right? So which was like a huge red flag, right? So then she ended up like, the best thing she could do is like, run away, right? But the problem with like, us, like as an international student, we don't have the leverage to, or the privilege to like, run away, right? Because like we have spent like so much money, so much time, so much like, our effort. And if we have not done our like, good research, like then like you kind of are stuck in a prison, right? So basically like, do your research. So I'm gonna like, people say like, do your research, right? So what are the things that you need to do like research on? That's the thing that I want to like, touch upon. So first, like you need to like, understand or ask yourselves like, is grad school for you, right? So basically like, you need to, the way to navigate that this particular questions is like, just to ask yourself like, what's my goal, right? So some of the like, if your career goal is to be like, let's say like academia or into an industry, right? Then like, certain like, this grads degree is going to be like very valuable, right? But if you want to like start your own business, not necessarily the grad school is going to be like, valuable, right? So you have to find out like what's your short-term and long-term goals, right? So let's face it, like, the most of the people like, what we want to do actually, like, we want to leave our country for a better future, and we want to like settle in like in abroad, right, for a better future. So that's also like, a very good goal, I would say. And I would say like, also like that can be like, good reason or good motivation for to like, pursue graduate school also, right? So then you need to ask yourself, will this like advanced degree can like, can help your goal? And then like, this graduate school, right, it takes like a lot of time, effort, your expense, like, it takes like a lot of commitment, right? So basically you have to ask like, you have to do your like, your own research, and come to into a conclusion that like, this either this grad school is for you, right? So let's say like, you have made the decision like, of going to like grad school, right? So then like you need to find out like, what are the challenges. So let me tell you like the current challenges that we have. I'm going to talk only about like in a US perspective. So the current challenges that we have right now is like, there is like immense competition. So basically you're competing with the whole world, right? So you'll always have an invisible competition. Like you think like, you don't have a competitor, but actually like the whole world is a competitor, if you want to like pursue like, grad school in like USA. So one like, slight of hope is that like, right now like, current administration, they ban like, Chinese and like Iranian student, right? So and every year like, US gets like, tons of like, application from like China and Iran. So that can be a like, that can help like, decrease the competition, but nevertheless like, there is like a lot of competition. And then like, the application complexity and navigating the process can be like, very overwhelming. So basically like, if you want to like, self-fund yourself, the application process is not that like, challenging, right? But if you want to like, get funding from the university, and they're going to spend like, thousands and thousands of dollars like, each month, So basically they're gonna like get the best students, right? So that means like there will be like a lot of materials that you need to fill up and a lot of things that you need to write. The whole application process is like very complex, right? So which I'm going to touch upon. Then like you cannot, if you want to like get funded, then like if there is like a potential weakness in application material, then it can be like costly. Then also like another thing is like research funding uncertainty right now, like under the current administration, this is a challenge. Things were like much worse like a couple of months ago, but things are getting better. Then also I want to touch upon like the arrival of AI and how that makes things like more challenging. You think like AI is going to help you more, right? But like you need to understand like everyone has access to AI, right? So how to use that AI is the big challenge. So I'm gonna like help you guys understand like how to ethically use AI, right? So basically, I would say like the most important word to be authentic, right? So one thing that like this grad school hates is plagiarism. So if like any kind of plagiarism, be it like AI or like you're copying from like your senior like SOP or statement of purpose or the personal statement, right? So that can be like easy. They have the tool to like detect all those stuff. So if they can catch that, even you have like a very good profile, that doesn't matter. They're gonna like like straight they're gonna put your application in garbage, right? So they're gonna, it's very like serious. So you need to like navigate this like AI very carefully, right? So I would say like write your own story, write your own draft. First write your own draft, then AI you can use to like since we are not like a native speaker, we can use that tool as to like smoothen your writing, or like if you want to like check your grammatical mistake. So those kind of stuff can be helpful with AI, but you have to tell your own story, right? Especially in the statement of purpose. Then finally, like you looked into like, okay, this graduate school is for you, right? So how to like search for graduate school? So Naimul has like touch upon like in Europe or Australia, you don't have, they're like more structured, right? You don't have to write, you have to write a like research proposal. But in USA, there is research flexibility, but at the same time, you need to, I mean, at least like the best piece of advice that I can give you is that like at least have a research question for yourself. Like okay, so let's say like I'm from like life science department, right? So let's say like I mean I'm very like interested in like cancer biology, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna look into like the whole cancer biology and try to like learn like as much as I can about that particular field, and then try to find out what are the still like the limitations or like the knowledge gap in that particular field, and based on that I'm going to write a like few like research questions or like a few line of like research proposal, right? So based on that you can like search for graduate school. Just don't like randomly look for like graduate school, but have a like strategy, and the strategy can be like finding out like what you actually want to like research about, right? Because like in PhD, PhD is not about like how smart you are. It's about like the research question, how close that research questions are, how much important to answer that research question for you. It's all about like perseverance, right? So basically like so once you have the research question, then like you can shortlist your school and like compare them. And to compare, these are the some of the factors you can consider, which is like look at the quality of programs. So basically like people look for like university name. So not necessarily you have to look for a university name. Even some of the low tier university might have like very good quality program. So just look for like either that program is like has like quality. So do your research, and then also do research on like like let's say like you looked into some of the faculty, right? So then like do your research, either that faculty is actively doing research, which you can easily do by going to like Google Scholar, right? So either like they are publishing those paper like actively, like each year you can have a sense of that. or also like you can look into either they have like an active grant. So for example, like in USA, like NIH, who is like a government body who funded this life science department, right? For example, they're called like NIH, right? So you can go NIH website and like paste that faculty name, and there you can find out like either they have like active funding or not, active grant or not, right? I guess like for engineering, that's NSF, if I'm not like wrong. That's the website, the government website, which you can also go like to see like either the faculty has like active funding or not. Then you can also look for like reputation of school, its program and faculty. Then you can search after you finish your program, what are the job perspective. You can also like research on that. And the financial aid aspect, you can also investigate. So basically, like Paulo already has touched upon that. Like in USA, the funding is basically like either through scholarship or assistantship, right? But the best way to get funding, the chances of you getting funding is through assistantship, right? Which is like research assistantship or teaching assistantship, right? So this the grant, like the PI or the faculties, they apply each year for like all these grant, right? So if they have grant, they can like they recruit this like research assistant or like teaching assistant. So look for like either the faculty has like active grant or not, right? Then like after you have shortlist your graduate school, you can ask experts like your faculty and professionals in the field, or your alumni, like either you whatever you have shortlisted, either they're like you can like vet the reputation of those like faculty or program, right? um, Next, like I'm going to talk about like how to email the professor, right? So basically, like I said, like the best way to like get yourself funded is through you by the faculty, right? Because the faculty always have like a grant, right? So lots of like USA, they spend like a lot of money in research. So this faculty always have some grant, right? So the best way to do that is to like to contact this professor, and basically like how to smartly like email this professor. I'm gonna like touch upon that. So first I'm going to talk about like what you shouldn't do. So you shouldn't randomly look for professor, and also you shouldn't like you shouldn't like spam professor email, right? So just think about it, like this professor from throughout the world, they get like lots of email, lots of spam email. By spam I would say like okay, my name is this is my profile, I'm looking for like looking for like a graduate assistantship. So are you like taking any like graduate students? So those are considered as spam, right? So you shouldn't do that, right? So the best way to like strategically to effectively email them is to like first ask advice, then you can show your interest. So by that I mean, like remember I told you like you need to write your few line of your research proposal or your research interest. So based on that you can like write those faculty like hey, so this is I want to like delve into, I'm very interested into that. So this research proposal, since like I'm new to this field, and you are like you have been in this field for a long time, so what do you think about these research questions? And so it just like first email is going to be your first bait. So the reason I use that word bait is because like you have to understand the mindset of this professor. These professors, they love to like talk about science, right? And also like another thing, they also like love to like give advice to like new students or newcomers, right? So you have to use that like as your advantage. So rather like emailing them like or showing interest, like I want to like join your lab, just ask them like okay, this is the research question that I have, what do you think about this, right? So first start with like just talk about science. So always remember, people only wants to hire those people who they know, right? So start having that conversation, talk about science, and then afterwards you can show interest, like what's since like, you're into this field, what do you think, like, I mean, do you need like any students? And I'll be happy to like, join your lab. So something like that, right? So next thing, like, if the professor give you like, green light, then like, you can do some research about like, how is the lab environment. Like you can ask like, the alumni or like, previous lab, current lab students or like previous students of that particular lab. They're like, what's the, how's the like, the environment in the lab, how's the faculty itself. So you can ask those kind of questions to like, to do more research about it, right? So next thing is like, okay, so the email, so after emailing those professor, they give you the green light and the lab environment is great and everything is perfect, right? So then the faculty, they're gonna say like, okay, I'm interested to like, take you, but you have to go through that like admission process, right? So I mean, even like, I mean, if you don't have like, enough time, then you can straight go to the admission process. But the best way to like, go through the professor, go through the faculty, right? If the faculty are interested, then your job is like, I would say like, 70% of your job is done, right? So then so now like, you have to understand the admission process, right? So the admission process is like, vary from institution to institution, which you have to like, keep in mind. And so but majority of the factors that that you need to like, have an understanding about is that like, these factors like I have put this like in a hierarchical order from top to like, bottom. Top being the like, most priority. So your research experience, or if you have any project, right? So showcase your research experience. So basically like, which can be like in means of like publication or paper. So I mean, paper publication is the best, right? But let's face it, like, as a bachelor student or masters, like, you it's very hard to have like a paper, right? It takes like a lot of times to like, have a paper, but anything like, will help, right? For example, if you have a conference or any project that you have delved into, which you can like, publish online or preprint, anything like will help, right? So basically like, if you have a research paper, I would say like 70% of the work is done, like, so I would say like, people who are listening, who are in the early stage of their of like your bachelor degree, let's say like second year or third year, if I have to go back, I would like, start looking for faculty in NSU who are doing currently like active research, right? I will go to those faculty and say like, I'm very interested to like, work in your lab. Can I help the seniors, right? If you start like, helping the seniors from now on, the seniors like, by the time like, they will graduate, you will have a paper. It's not necessary that you need to have a first author paper. Any paper, like, if you're co-author, that also helps. So helping the seniors, like, will be like, great strategy to have, right? And then grade point average, which is like, your CGPA, right? So CGPA, I would say like, for PhD, you need to have like, I would say like 3.3 and above. For masters, I would say like 3 and above. Then also like, you need to have this standardized test score, which is GRE, GMAT, LSAT. So right now, like, they're waived in USA, but I would say like, as coming from like, Bangladesh, and especially from North South University, I think like, it's very good to have like, this kind of like, standardized test score. And the reason I'm telling that, because um, like they have, everyone has this fear of unknown, right? So they don't know that much about like in our country education system. So basically like, if you have this standardized test score, so they will have more confidence on you. So they will feel like, okay, these guys like actually genuine student, because these tests are not easy, right? These are very hard test to test, right? So which I'm going to talk about more in detail in the coming slide. Then also definitely you need to have like English proficiency test, TOEFL or IELTS, and statement of purpose. Then you have letter of recommendation, which I'm going to talk more in detail. Then if you have previous work experience, that also like helps. Curricular activities, I would say like, it's somewhat like helpful, but it's not the like, decider, I would say. Then like talking about like more about the standardized test. So GRE is for graduate school. So I'm like very familiar with like graduate school, but like if you have to talk about the business school or law school or like medical school, which is like for business school is GMAT you need to give, law school is LSAT, and then like medical school is like MCAT. So I don't know like much about this like school, but like for graduate school you definitely have to give GRE, and then also like everyone needs to give like this TOEFL and IELTS, right? So I would suggest like everyone to like schedule exam, like start preparing like from for 1 year at least, and then like register very early. Next, I'm going to talk about like the statement of purpose. Like I have mentioned like something about the statement of purpose, about like why you shouldn't use AI to make your first draft for statement of purpose. So basically you have to understand statement of purpose is like is a great chance for you to like tell them your story, right? It's your personal story. So remember, like I said before, everyone wants to like hire someone who they know, right? So this is one way to like tell your story, right? So the way you can tell this story is by like asking like this kind of or answering this kind of questions, right? Which is like, what are your specific goals for graduate study? How have you been prepared academically? What experience has helped you prepare? What are your goals beyond graduate study? Answer specific questions required by each graduate school. So again, like you have to check like what are the questions also they're asking, right? So you can write the first draft, and then like you can help use AI to like kind of like smoothen your writing, or like kind of like review used help with the AI, right? Some of the tips is that like you can give like concrete examples, your personal experience, be positive, and also like help have your statement reviewed by faculty or any kind of alumni or any expert in that particular profession, right? That helps a lot. Next is like you need to like request a letter of recommendation. So one thing like you need to understand about the letter of recommendation in North America, which is like Canada and USA. So the format is that like in, let's say like in Europe and Australia, you have to like submit a like a generic like letter of recommendation, right, in a PDF form. But here this is more like personalized. So during the application portal, like when the application is open, in one of the sections in like referee, who is your recommender, you need to like put their email address. So the school's gonna like send the personalized like in an email to your recommender, and they need to like write a like personalized like letter of recommendation, right? Here like you don't have much thing to do, because the faculty like North-South NUC faculty, they need to like write a like tailored like letter of recommendation for you. But you can definitely like first like approach them like courteously, and also like give your statement of purpose, your resume or CV. Also you can give a like a draft, right? Like draft of like letter of recommendation to help them like also write, and also like give them ample of time and help them like also like understand the whole process, and also like be grateful after you get accepted. Let them know and show your gratitude. Then finally you complete your your application portal, which is gonna like be open. I would like to like emphasize one thing, which is like for fall semester, your majority of the funding comes in the fall semester, right? So the fall semester application portal is gonna open from like, let's say, from November until February. So majority of the school, they have this like this application portal open, which is like November to February, right? So during that period, like you can log in, log out, like work on your like an application. So just like complete your draft of each application, then basically review, proofread, talk with your faculty, show them also like or your alumni, whoever can like also review, and also like mail all the materials well in advance of deadlines. So for example, you need to also mail your transcript, which is you can go and get from the admission department of North South University, and that needs to be like sealed. So that transcript needs to be sealed and needs to be like mailed to the grad school, right? So then also like you need to like send the GRE score if you have, then also like the IELTS score. So some of the university also like ask for that. So you need to be like well versed like what are the requirements for each of the grad school, right? And also like another thing is important is also like to consider interview preparation. So I will tell my like personal experience. So I have a like also like somewhat like medical like profile. I had a like research paper, and my CGP was 3.31 and my GRE score was like 303. So it was like kind of like like borderline for PhD, right? But then when I asked my like PhD faculty like why you had like a very good like pool of like grad applicants, right? So why you have like chose me? And she replied that like your interview was like really good, right? So that's one way you can also like put a like a good impression, right? So there is not much like practice too that you have in online to like prepare for the interview. But good thing is like in our platform we have, which is like gradmate AI, which has like a practice tool, which like Naimul is gonna like show you guys like that particular thing. And so finally I'd like to like conclude by showing like what are the timeline for like applying for grad school, right? So remember I told you like the grad school, like most major of the grad school, from between like I would say like November to like February, the application portal opens, right? So you need to have your like your transcript, or your transcript, your GRE ready by then, right? So let's say like you have a paper, you already have a like you have to like by May you have to start like preparing for your, let's say like IELTS or GRE, and then like by July I would say like just request information from school, meet up with former professors. Then I would say like July also you need to like give your first GRE test. You need to have like an ample of time. By the time of November, like for GRE test, like you always have to sit like early, so that like if you have a chance of like giving it like another time, because like let's say like if you have like bad score at the first time, so you have time to like give another time. So then everything needs to be like ready by November, and then like just like start apply, and then like just like proofread. So this is the timeline I would say. And so thank you. I try to like make my presentation based on like the type of questions that I have got. So I pretty sure like you guys will have like more questions, so feel free to like ask questions. So I'm gonna like give floor to like Naimul, so just to like give an idea about the gradmate AI and how this application or the platform can help you like like smartly navigate this whole application process. So yeah, Naimul, you can like take from here.
Thank you, Dr. Nazmul Haque, for your valuable talk. So Dr. Nazmul, he already talked about some of the challenges, and at the end, he talked about the timeline. But I think in terms of the preparation, uh, generally it takes like 1 year. I mean, around 1 year or 2 years if you are planning to do a GRE. It takes around 1 or 2 years of preparation. But if you want to do it really fast, I mean and if you want to do it really fast, the minimum time you have is like 6 months. So you should start from July, and you should work up to December or maybe the next year's January to to apply for a grad program, which is supposed to start at next year's fall. So the time is limited, but the application process is daunting, especially for in US. But let's say you don't have that much time, you don't had that much people in your life that would help you, navigate through your application. And for most of the people who doesn't have alumni or a big brother like I had, you can use our platform, which is gradmate.ai, and this platform is based on AI, and the AIs or LLM agents that are working underneath will help you guide through the application process, and it will do it really in a short time that you'll be amazed. So let me introduce some of the features. You can start using those features by yourself, just opening up an account, and you don't have to pay to test it out. And if you test it out, we'd like to get feedbacks from you, and you can send us your feedbacks to our emails. Let me show you our platform. So this is gradmate.ai. If you just search gradmate.ai, it will show up this wonderful interface. And let me just show you the website here. So this is the website. And since we don't have that much time, I'm gonna touch upon some of the features really quickly. So one of the features we have is university shortlisting. Let's say a professor said, you can apply, and if I see that your application process is perfect, I'm gonna accept you as a student. So you know that you're taking that university as a consideration for application. And there are other ways to shortlist universities. By shortlist, I mean in USA, especially in USA, the application is not free. If you want to do a graduate application, you pay around $50 to $100 US dollar, $120 US dollar, around that. So it's not like you can apply to 100 school. So you have to, consider only a fixed amount of school that you want to apply. And usually there is a rule of 10, which means that you should apply at least 10 schools if you want funding. If you want a guaranteed funding, you should apply at least 4, where 3 of them should be your dream school, 3 of them should be your target school, which means that by dream school, I mean you can search the university's ranking in terms of the national rankings. There's some website called US News. So if the ranking is really high, it should be your dream school. And there should be 3 dream school, 3 target school, and 4 safe school, which means the rankings are not that much, but you're sure that based on your profile, they're going to take you, and you should get a funding. So there is this option called add university, where you can add your university, in the name of the university. You can put location. You can put, one of the good feature here is you can put your deadline. If you search online, you'll be able to get the deadline, and if you put it, this feature will show you how many days are left for you to complete the whole application, because the deadline means that after your deadline, you'll not be able to submit your application. So before this date, you have to do all your everything. You have to do all the application process done. So I showed you through PC, but you can use it on your phone, this platform. So one of the students from among you guys asked a question like, and your question was how to manage faculties to provide fund and to find a full rider scholarship. So we have this feature which is called Grad Assistant, where you can ask this sort of question. where if you ask the same question to ChatGPT, it will give you a 3-page answer, and you'll be clueless, and you'll be clueless where to begin and what to follow. But we have some documents that this AI uses to make sure your answer should be as specific to your question. For example, for this question, how to manage faculties to provide fund. So for this specific question, this AI is giving us an answer to manage faculty to provide funding. It's essential to research and reach out to the professor where the research interest align with yours. So it's telling you to go and look for the professor and look through their website. Usually all the professor have their own homepage or the web page, so you can know about their research interest, and you can also see whether this research aligns with your or not. But the one of the hardest part is to find those web pages, so that you can judge, you can look through their web pages. So we have another solution, another solution for that, which is finding your faculty match. So here you can look for faculties who are interested in taking PhD students, or who are interested in giving out research assistantships or TAs. But for now, our feature only works for computer science and electrical, but we are working on to integrate other majors as well. So if I quickly show it, so you can choose a region where you want to look for the faculties. You can choose the country in that region. Then you can choose a number. You'll get an option of many schools. For now, let me choose one of the school, which is University of California, Riverside. And if you choose that, you'll be seeing a number of faculties who are working on specific fields. And you can so in computer science and in electrical, there is a lot of subfield, like for example, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and many more, like database. So you can filter these faculties based on your own research experience or your own interest in general for future. So you can go to the advanced filter feature, and you can filter, let's say, let me try to do it quickly. So let's say, so this is one of the professor, and I can view their personal website as well as I can view their Google Scholar. So the Google Scholar is a website any researcher can have, where they have their research paper shown. So let's say I want to look at his website. I'll go to his web page, and I'll look through his what type of research he's focused on. And if I see, this research goes well with my background, or, I'm interested in doing research in this. And I can also see this person, he mentioned that he's looking for PhD student, which is a big thing. So if you see that, someone is looking for PhD student, and if you see that your research aligns with his, you should always email that person, or that faculty. So we have another feature, which is email generator, which will generate an email for you. So, and these emails are more tailored to your CV. So when you create an account, we take your CV, so that now we know that everything about you, and you can choose what type of email you want to send them. And we usually suggest the user to use this email as a direction to write your own email. So you not necessarily always know what to write to, especially to this particular faculty. So what you can do is, you put your name and then you put the name of the faculty, and now you're trying to put your that faculty's email. And if you do that, we have a backend system where we will search about this faculty in the backend, and also we'll match what research this faculty has that aligns with your research interest. We'll look through your projects and also your publication if you have them, and then if you put the recipient's position and everything, it will finally generate you a beautiful email that you use it. You can send it directly. I don't mind sending emails directly which are AI generated for a number of reasons. One of the reason is even if your email is generated and if the faculty understand that, the faculty, it doesn't matter, because if you mention a specific thing that you already worked on, and if they can verify that looking at your CV, so he'll not judge you for using AI. But for statement of purpose, for application material, it's important that you don't exactly send out whatever you get from AI. So this is one of the feature you can use to email them. And one of the cool feature we have is assistantship. I can show it right here. So if you go to our website, gradmate.ai, so this feature will be really helpful, and it's also free, so you don't have to pay anything. So if you go to the assistantship, you'll see that there is a number of so there is a way to email professor and get a green signal. And another way to get this professor, there is many professor who are recently joining a new school, so they don't have any student. So what they do is they put their needs or ad in LinkedIn, and 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 they will mention that I'm a new faculty at this school, and I'm looking for some student for PhD or whatever. So what you can do is, if you see that this assistantship aligns with yours, you can just email them. And these are much better tactics in order to get a funding, because these faculties, they are just new, they don't have any students. So you are available. If you're available to work, they might take you instantly, and you're more likely to get a reply from this. So this is one of the feature we have, and I'll show the rest of them very quickly. We also have interview preparation feature where you can put, let's say someone said, you can work under me, and you have done everything, you got accepted. Now they'll say, we need to do an interview. So now you need an interview preparation, and it's one of the most important things, especially for PhD, to have a good interview. And we usually don't know how to do interviews, especially when we are freshly graduate student. So it's important to do these practices. So what we have here is a pretender. So if I put the interviewer's name or the faculty's name and their website, this AI will pretend to be that person. And we have an option of both text and voice. You can choose one of them, and it will ask you the questions based on his research and also what assistantship I'm looking for. So this particular bot, which is pretending to be this faculty, and he's asking exactly related to his field, whether I can work on him or not. And when I give a reply to it, he asked two questions, but I'm replying to one of them. And when I send it, it will give us answer evaluation. So right now I got 4 out of 10. And it says, that's a good start, but can you elaborate? Which means that I didn't complete the whole question. So this is one of the feature which will help you to practice your interviews. We also have a feature for preparing your statement of purpose. You can draft your statement of purpose with AI. We have a bunch of questions that you can answer and get a instant SOP. Don't use this SOP as it is. You should use it as a direction to how to write your own SOP or statement of purpose. You can also get an instant review. You can upload your statement of purpose, and you can see that it will give you a review. It will tell you the strengths of your statement of purpose, areas to improve, as well as the suggestion. It will suggest you how you can improve. And we also have an option of getting reviewed by human. If you send your email, we'll review it within a week. So for human it will take a time, but if you want it to be reviewed instantly, you can use this feature. So we also have some features for English proficiency. So you can practice your speaking. You can practice your writing. For example, here you can generate a writing topic for task 1 in our writing section in IELTS. It's asking, if you can write a summary based on this image, and you should point out, the highlights of this diagram. After you're done, you send your response, and you'll get it evaluated. We also have reading practices where there is a passage on the left, and on the right you can choose a question's answer or response. There is listening test. We also have listening test where it for the first time it will take time to generate, but yeah, it's playing here right now. So based on the audio, you can put your responses on the right. So these tools are really helpful, and you guys are lucky because you guys are, if you use it, you guys will be the first users for person to be using these. And we really request you guys, if you have any problems, you can send us your feedback to these emails. And so this is all about GradMate. It's a solution for your graduate application. If you want everything to be done within 1 or 2 months, you can use this feature. But it's always good to take time, let's say 1 or 2 years, to do, if you want to do a GRE, or if you want to do your IELTS or other preparation. You might need a research as well. So it's a better it's good to have time. But if you don't have any time, you're welcome to use our platform. So yeah, I'm pretty much done, and I think if we have time, we can do a Q&A session. Do we have any time?
Yes, we have time. Students, if you have any questions, you can ask directly or put it in the chat box.
I think I saw questions. Someone asked, like Mehbooba Nusara, she asked,
I can reply for that. So the question is GRE necessary for masters? So I'm telling in the perspective of engineering programs. So for engineering, especially in computer science and electrical, for the most of the universities, they have waived GRE. But then again, if you have GRE, you'll be considered like a really good person for academic research or teaching assistantship. It's good to have GRE, especially for masters in engineering. But if you don't have it, you can shine in other areas. Like if you have a good research, I don't think you need a GRE. If you have done 2 or 3 publication, I don't think you need it that much. It's from the engineering perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the juries are always like the most important factor is either you have research experience. That's like, I would say like 70% of the, at least as far as like, research assistantship or like, teaching assistantship. There is no like, if you don't have research experience, you're toast, right? So basically, if you have like in research experience, that's best. For GRE, like I would say like, coming country from like us, like Bangladesh, and these people, like I said in my presentation, they have the fear of unknown, right? So they don't know much about our education system. So if you have like GRE, that will prove you like, you're a genuine student, and they will have like more confidence on you, right? So I mean, if you have GRE, like that's give you like an extra edge. And in this era, you always need to have a like extra edge. So it's
I
best to
think
have a
we
like
can,
GRE.
yeah, I think we can take a question from some of the person whose hands are raised.
Okay.
So Azad, I think you can unmute and ask your question.
Hello. I completed my BBA and MBA in finance from NSCO. For BBA with a CGPA 3.24 and MBA with CGPA 3.48. So while I was doing MBA, I decided that I want to be a faculty, a finance faculty at NSCO. So at present, I need to be consulted that if I should do another master's in US or in European university, or should I do a PhD to become eligible to be a faculty at NSU?
I think I can answer to that. So your background is in business, but in US, especially in US, there is not much funding, especially for business programs. But I think if you are looking for a topic like finance or economics, you can do you can definitely do PhD there. Coming from a business background, but yeah, I think if you it will be it will be great for you to have a PhD if you want to be a faculty in the future, because that's your ultimate goal. So you should go for a PhD. But I'm not sure about the funding situation for non-STEM programs like MBA. So I don't think you should apply for an MBA or masters if you're hoping for a funding. And
I
if you
think
have
like
a master, yeah, go ahead.
sorry to cut you, right? I think like for your business school, right? You have the opportunity to like give GMAT, right? Which is like, I mean, I'm pretty sure, although like, I'm not expert in this, but I have few friends like, during my time in NSU, who are giving like, GMAT, and from them, like, what I learned, you always have to like, need to like research this. But as far as I know, for securing a funding for business school, you must like attend the GMAT. And also like, one way to get funding or assistantship is by like teaching assistantship. They don't have much for like, research assistantship, but I think like, teaching assistantship, if you have like, prior experience in terms of like, teaching, so which will help you a lot to like, get those kind of like teaching assistantship. And I would say like, definitely like, sit for like GMAT, because like, that will give you like, a big edge for business school. But again, like, again, I'm not like, very much like, aware about like, business school. So just like, talk with your alumni and see like, how they have navigated the whole process. Right?
Well, one major thing I am confused about, that if the universities in the US and the Europe accept PhD students who did MBA from Bangladeshi universities.
Oh, so you're asking like, either they're gonna accept you after you have done your MBA from Bangladesh University? That's what your question is?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they will see that I haven't completed my master's or MBA from a reputed foreign university, like from their country's universities or so, from Bangladesh. So Is it
So
kind of
I think that's where
acceptable?
the statement of purpose comes. You know, they will not just judge you based on your university. They will judge mostly on who the person you are. So if you can showcase in your statement of purpose that you're an individual who's really driven, and despite your degree or your MBA from Bangladesh, you have the drive to do a further PhD in a specific field that also aligns with their research. So you gotta have some sort of research focus when you plan to do a PhD. So it's not a problem that you have an MBA from Bangladesh. That's not a problem. If you can mention everything, your why you chose an MBA and what's the reason behind it and what did you do during that period of time. If you can put it in a constructive way, I think, yeah, you have a chance to get a PhD or master's
Again,
in.
like, to write that particular statement of purpose, you need to have like good experience. You just cannot say like, okay, I'm driven, I am just like this and that, right? But if you cannot back up with like, what your experience is, like, in terms of your any kind of like work experience or any kind of your like in research experience, if you cannot showcase that, then all those words are empty, right? So basically, like, are you driven? Okay, you wrote that like you're driven, but also you have to back that up by your action also.
Yes, I think we can take a question from the participants who has their hand raised. So Sanjana Karim, can you ask your question?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Sanjana
Walaikum
Karim from North South, and currently I'm majoring in biochemistry and technology, and I'm in my third semester right now. You mentioned something that in the US, when we are pursuing PhD, it will take about 5 to 7 years because some of the students are directly doing a PhD, I mean, after completing their bachelor's instead of doing a master's program. And that's why they have to go through the theoretical part for about 2 to 3 years. So what if someone, I mean, gets a fully funded PhD offer and thinks that, yes, I have now completed my theoretical part, but I feel that this PhD is not for me. Is it possible for me to get like a certificate or anything regarding that, that yes, this person has completed the basic knowledge that is required, and now that person can search for jobs instead of pursuing the PhD? Like, I mean, counting that as a master's certificate. Like one of my relatives is a professor at University of Florida. So she said something related to that. So that's why I'm asking you this question.
Yeah, I can answer to that. So to start with, it's a really good question, and the answer to that is it depends on the school. So yeah, if you are going to a PhD straight from a bachelor, and if you have done your qualifying exam and you now decide, I don't want to continue, there is some of the school that offers you a master's degree for that. So you can just take the master's degree and you're done. You're saying that I don't want to continue, but in other schools it's not the same. With after you're done with your qualifying exam, they don't usually offer the master's degree. So it depends on the school. You can whatever the school you apply, make sure that you search with enough keywords to look for those answers. So it's yes and no. Most of the school, they offer you a master's degree once you're done with your qualifying exam, but not all the school.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're
Hey guys, I
welcome.
want to add some stuff. Can I also speak?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
So Dr. Fahd Kadir is my a lab mate, and he is actually from like biochemistry department. So I think like he has some input. I don't know like related to that or feel free, please.
Oh, just generally, I just wanted to like, I think very nice talk by both Nazmul and Naimul. So I've been listening to everything about, all the things that, all the questions that you guys have, and just give you a little bit of input about myself. Like, I've had pretty much a scholarship or fellowship, pretty much throughout my career. So I came here to the US for a PhD, on a Fulbright fellowship. So it was completely funded, A to Z. And now in my postdoc fellowship, I also have a Pathway to Independence Award from the NIH. Everything that they said was absolutely spot on, especially when, the US is hyper competitive. It's not competitive, but you're literally not only competing against everybody else, but you're competing against the best, right? So, in writing your SFP, I agree 100% with, the model that gradmate.ai generates for you and the approach that it provides you to apply for grad school in the US. But what I would say, one thing that I tell people, so a lot of people ask me again, like, like Nazmul was mentioning, people contact us a lot, what will make us stand out. One thing that you should always think in writing your SFP or trying to talk to a professor in the US is that what utility do you bring to the table? Because put yourself in that professor's shoes, right? They're probably seeing about 20, 30 applications per week, randomly from people. So it's not like they have a shortage of applicants, right? So think about it like, how will you make yourself stand out? Because most of applicants are like, some of them will have paper, some of them will be more competitive than you, but what makes you a useful utility for them? So what, differentiates you from everybody else that is also applying to that university or to that professor? And that's what really helped me, honestly. And that kind of approach or mentality, if you start having it, then you start thinking, okay, this person is actively working in this field and is looking for someone who is specialized in this, and, show interest and show that, this is what you are working on, and this is how I can help you. And that's what people in the US are looking for. They're, at the end of the day, as Nazmul mentioned many times during his presentation, it's very competitive. They're looking to further their own careers at the end of the day. So how can you help someone else succeed and further their own career? And that's what you need to be looking for. And if you can bridge that gap, that's what makes you successful.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your input.
So I just wanted to take a couple of questions from the chat. Some of them are really interesting, right? So, for example, Freya had a question that, if I'm already in my final semester and I am yet to have any publications, will that negatively affect my success for master's study? I'll give you an example. One of my friends, very smart girl. She was like, one of my co-fellows in masters, did not have a paper. She was working on it. She started really early, like Nazmul was saying. She identified and met, a couple of seniors and a faculty that was working on a project. They ran it, they got some really cool results and data, but they were going back and forth with the journal. So it takes time. This entire process of generating data, doing a research project, and writing a paper and like trying to get it accepted, it's not an easy task, especially, in our part of the world. So she didn't have a paper, but what she was able to do is that she was able to sort of position the fact that, she's done this research and that, she has a paper that is in the works. Or, she could say that, this is the project that I worked on, this is the question that I had, and this is what we're trying to address, and these are the experiments that I was helping with. Because at the end of the day, again, think about what they're trying to look for in that SFP, or what are they trying to look for in your research paper. Because even when I applied, I had one research paper, right? So the first thing they asked me in my interview was, what did you do in this paper? So they're trying to judge your skill level or your ability. And they know that, you're not going to be the sole first author or the person who did all the work or wrote the paper, but they're trying to understand, how better are you than the other 5 people who are also applying, who also have papers. You understand? So if you don't have a paper, it's not a big deal. She ended up getting into Imperial College, which is one of the top universities in the world. And she went there for biochemistry, right? Biochemistry and molecular biology. So she got a PhD, full ride, stipend-based scholarship from Imperial, just on the basis of her SFP and on targeting and finding someone that was working on an E. coli enzyme that, she was really passionate about and had done some work on, and she was able to bridge that gap, and that's how she got into that. So not having a paper or is fine, but try to like be a part of some research, or just have that ability to have that discussion where you can show that I've done something, and that shows that I'm serious about research. It's not like I just woke up one day and I'm like, okay, now I want to do research. Because even though you may be great, that still puts you at a competitive disadvantage in comparison to everybody else who has taken the effort to show that they're better. So that's something that's super important. It's not impossible to get a position without a paper, but you then have to start thinking of what makes you different than everybody else. And if you guys want to answer some questions, but I can answer all of them actually one by one, but if you guys want to share that.
Yeah, depend upon how much time we have. We can definitely that's the I think
I'm
the
all
most
good.
important.
It's already
Yeah.
really late over here, right? So I'm good. I
Yeah.
think the questions are the most important thing, because everybody brings their
Yes,
own
that's
Yeah.
unique perspective, right?
yeah.
So I
But I
can
want to
answer the next
mention.
one. I can answer the next one, by Chandni Mondal.
Yes.
And she's asking, since you have mentioned that getting into a US university can take at least a year, would it be a problem if someone pursues a master's in US, in Bangladesh, my bad, during that waiting period? And would it affect their chances of getting accepted or create issue during visa processing for a second master's in US? I don't think so, because I have done the same during that waiting period. I also did a master's in Bangladesh, and later I again enrolled in a master's. So there is no problem regarding that. No problem in the visa as well. So
I know
yeah.
someone who was in their third year of PhD in Pakistan and left their PhD and then started from scratch a PhD program in the US. So, that makes no difference. It happens all the time that people who are in advanced like graduate degrees are doing it because they don't want to waste time, right? So you always want to keep your options open, because the US is like a coin toss. It's so competitive for any of these developing countries. So you don't want to waste your time applying year after year. I mean, it's good to be resilient, but at the same time, if things don't work out, you want to still advance your career. So absolutely, like if you can get into a graduate program in Bangladesh, be it a master's program or a PhD program, like go for it, do research, because if you're going to be doing a master's or a PhD, you're going to be doing some research. That means you're going to be going towards an academic paper. And honestly, the currency that the research world, be it any STEM field, be it humanities, be it art, it all depends on what can you show for it in terms of a research paper? Because a research paper is really a comprehensive picture of your ability to take a critical question, think about it, ask a specific question about it, and then go about addressing it in a formal way. And if you can show that on a piece of paper, which is a publication, that shows that you have the ability to conduct research. And that's what people are looking for.
Okay, so
I think we can take one question from the raised hand. I think Shahriar Ifti, you can ask your question.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. I'm Shahriar Ifti from North University. So my question is, there is an emphasis on publishing a research paper to get a full fund. So is it necessary to be the first author of a research paper to get a fund, or second or third author may also get the benefit for the fund?
yeah, I mean, first author not necessary, right? All you need is like a paper, like co-author. I mean, to be frank, like first author paper is like it takes like a lot of time, like years and years, right? So best way, like for bachelor or for masters, having a co-author, like I said in my presentation, go talk with like in your second year or third year, go talk with your faculty that doing active research in NSU, and say like okay, I want to help, right? So then if they ask like how can you help, then you say like I can help the seniors, right? So the seniors, like you can help them. By the time like you are graduated, you'll have a paper from your seniors, right? So I mean co-author paper That's all you need. You don't need to have a like first author paper. If you have a first author paper, that's great, but not necessarily you need to have a like first author paper.
Thank you so much.
Another question like and also like from Jannatul Firdaus, which is like what scholarships are available for master's program in the US and what criteria are usually considered for awarding them for pharmacy students, for instance, right? So I think like I've touched upon in my presentation, which is like there is like two form of like funding options. One is like scholarships and another is assistantship, right? So basically like the best way to like get funding is by assistantship, right? So which is your like in research assistantship or like a teaching assistantship, which is like granted by the faculty grant, right? So I know like Fahad bhai, like you got your scholarship, right? Fulbright scholarship. Maybe like you'll have like better idea about scholarship. So do you have like any input here?
It's funny you say that. So I was looking while you guys were talking. Bangladesh also has a Fulbright fellowship program. And in my batch, I'm a 2015 scholar, so I graduated in 2019, but I got the fellowship in 2015. There were actually like two girls from Dhaka who were in my batch also. So, I mean, Fulbrighters come from all over the world, right? So there are a lot of people that come from Bangladesh as well. I don't know if NSU knows about this or like students actively participate in the Fulbright program in Bangladesh, but it's definitely something that you should look into. And a Fulbright fellowship, let me tell you, is a full scholarship, A to Z, master's or PhD. It doesn't matter. And they fund things from humanities, psychology, STEM degrees, MBA, all kinds of things they fund. The only thing that they don't provide funding for is clinical sciences. So for example, if you're going to go and do something like I don't think a B Pharm or an MD degree or a DVM, something which is clinical, because that has some repercussions legally in the US. For example, if you're practicing and if you mess up or do something, then you get sued. So malpractice insurance comes into play, and because of that, they don't fund that. But otherwise, they fund everything else. Actually, I think I was looking that I think May is round about the time every year that the Bangladesh Fulbright program accepts applicants. So that's their deadline. So that's something that, I mean, one should look into. I was trying to find the link actually. So Pakistan has something known as the USCFP, the United States Education Foundation in Pakistan. I was trying to find the equivalent in Bangladesh, but if I find that, I'll send the link to you guys. But definitely that's something that you should look for because that's a complete fellowship program. But like Naimul, for example, he also is on a sort of a fellowship program, even though he's like a master's student, if I'm correct in sort of understanding that now. So he also, doesn't, I guess he gets paid from his research mentor, right? So it's very rare, but it is possible. But for PhD, people think that PhD, you're going to pay for yourself. No, a PhD in the US is like a job. You're literally assigned, they call us student staff, like when we were PhD students. I think the same for Nazmul also, right? So you're kind of a student and you're a staff member because they pay you stipend and the university sort of internally waives your tuition fees. So you don't need to worry about anything. You get enough money to pay for your insurance, your health insurance, and also get paid per month, which is enough to live. So, I mean, that's why everybody looks for a PhD program. But to be competitive for a PhD program, although it's not required, one should have a master's, I feel, or at least be in a master's program and then start applying for a PhD, because everybody that applies from our part of the world has a master's degree and has at least a paper. So, or is working on it.
I also want to add something, which is like if you have like assistantship, like your research or teaching assistantship, like Fadbhai was saying, that considered as a job, right? So you can put that on your CV though. Like if you're definitely like if you got any kind of scholarship, that you can also like put on your CV. But assistantship in your work experience, you can put that on your CV, like, you have worked as a, like, teaching assistantship and also like research assistantship. So I just want to, like, point that out. I got some, like, one of the very interesting question, which is like from like Sanjana Kuri. So she wrote, like, suppose someone is trying to write a narrative literature review paper on a topic and end up publishing it in a good journal, right? Would it be both it beside publishing a research paper? So I think, like, I mean, I think like any paper works, right? So even the review paper, that will also like consider as a, like, your publication, right? So this also, like, people who are not finding, like, good, like, active research faculty, or like, they're trying to, like, struggling with, like, a research paper, definitely look for, like, review article. You can definitely write a review article. It takes like a lot of time, but like, any sort of publication helps a lot. That gives you an idea to the, like, recruiter, that, like, you are very interested in, like, doing research. So this kind of like, review article also help a lot.
I think I can
So
take one question from Farhana. She has completed her bachelor in CSE, so which was my bachelor as well, and she mentioned that she has a CGPA below 3, and she managed to publish a paper in October in a conference in Austria. So I think, and she wants to know, is this low CGPA will be a barrier to get a full funded master's or PhD in US? So I think the US admission, the way they bet on a student is holistic, which means that, if you are lacking in one field, they'll not judge you based on that specific field. They will also look at your other areas. So one of them is the publication or the research in general. So you already mentioned that you're trying to publish a paper in Austria, which is a good thing. But if you want to, since the competition is really high, if you want to make your profile a much better, you can try to get a good score in GRE. And I think anyone wants to add to this?
I
I
think
mean,
that was
again,
perfect.
yeah, Vendor, absolutely I agree with you 100%. But again, it boils down to utility. Like the person that you're applying to, it's possible that that paper that you published is sort of niche, uh, or you could sort of spin it in a way that sort of supports what somebody is doing research on. Let's say, I don't know, you're working on agentic AI development, sort of multimodal analysis or something like that, and you're applying to a professor's lab who is doing something very similar. So he'll be like, wow, I need somebody to be working on this project. And, then that will be, the turning point or something that will allow him to interact with you. Like I know people who have like borderline CGPAs of 2.7, where the university says below 2.5, we don't even offer a degree, right? 2.7, 2.78, something like that. But, sort of were very aggressive in trying to, sort of do research projects with professors, had 1 or 2 papers in which they were like 4th or 5th author, but were able to use that material really to, get a conversation started with a professor in the US, and they got into programs. So although all of these things are important, but they're still small parts of a bigger puzzle. So think about it that way. The CGPA alone, like everybody, like for us, especially in the sort of academic systems that we're part of, we think that CGPA is the apex predator. It's like right on the top of the pyramid is the most important thing. But it's just one of the parts of the puzzle. Like, having a good CGPA score, having a good SOP, having the ability to interact well, the interview process itself, is like, I think 50% if you can get to an interview. But before that, all of these small things, like showing, how you can improve the quality or the ability of somebody in the US to, conduct their own research. If you can do that, then they will look past your CGPA or any of the other boundaries that you may have. Because don't forget, like having somebody come from a country outside of the US is a big hassle. They have to wait, you have to go through an onboarding process at the university. Then you have to go and give a visa interview, and sometimes there are delays because of that. So it's a big hassle. But they're still willing to do that if you can bring that utility, and if they think, okay, this is going to be a great investment for me. So that's what you need to focus on and think about, like how am I going to be the most useful person out of all 20 people that are applying to you? And sometimes what things that work is being persistent. Like, saying that, no, I want to work on this. I know someone who was really passionate about something in cancer biology, also had a bad CGPA, like a borderline CGPA, I won't say bad, but 3.1 or something like that. And she kept on saying, I want to go to this person and I want to work in this person's lab. She applied for 2 years. I wouldn't say do that, but she kept on persistently trying to, get into that person's lab. And eventually he said, you know what, I'm going to give you a chance. So, persistence pays off. And turns out like her first author paper was a paper in Cell. So, it really, the persistence also matters, about how passionate you are. Things will not happen by themselves, but the reality is that if you can bridge that gap, then, things will start to work out.
Yeah, like I said, like I mean, most of the people think like PhD, doing PhD, I need to be like very intelligent. Not necessarily you need to be intelligent, right? You just have to be persistent and also have the perseverance. Like like it's very stressful process. Everything is very stressful, but like how much like your interest in research, and like just being like persistent, and just being like just be perseverance, like to have the like run the extra mile. Just to say that, right? You don't have to be like an extra smart to like do a PhD. Just needs to be like adamant for answering that particular question. Yeah.
I think Sanjana Karim, she has a specific question to Fahad Bhai, Dr. Fahad Bhai.
Oh yeah, I was typing in chat, but I thought you guys could answer the questions. But yeah, I have a PhD in molecular cell and developmental biology from the University of Miami. So there's a medical school there called the Miller School of Medicine. And I went there again on a PhD fellowship. So a little bit about me, right? I was a nerd, like Nazmul will tell you this. I had a good GPA, like I ticked all of the boxes. But again, a good GPA doesn't matter. You can have there are people who have 4x4 GPAs, and people living in the US don't even reply to their emails. So it doesn't really matter what your GPA is. What matters is, again, what the utility is that you bring, right? So I did a research project because somebody again was like, the problem is that nobody's there to really tell us about all these things that are important, right? So I was fortunate enough to have a friend, and she told me that, she was in the process of applying. She was a senior, and she said, what you should do is, get in. One thing that I didn't do is do some research. So that's what you need to do. So there was a professor, and he was doing a project in chickens. So I have a DVM degree. I'm a veterinarian. So during my veterinary college, I said, I don't know, but I need to do something about research. I had no idea what research was. So he said, okay, I'm doing this project, and we're giving vitamin E to chickens. What I need you to do is I need you to go and take temperature of these chickens every day. So literally, I would go every day and take temperature of 50 chickens, like whatever you need to do, right? As long as you're, again, people, faculty in Bangladesh and your university also are not going to just, allow you to work in the lab if you're not going to be serious, or, you're not going to help them in a project. So it doesn't matter. Just be thirsty, be hungry, go and say, I'll do anything. I'll help, in whichever way I can. All I want is to, be on your publications and on your conference abstracts. And, I'm here to help. So, and people appreciate that and they understand that. And they're, a lot of people, 8 out of 10 people will be willing to actually allow you to come on board and, help people. So that's literally what I did. And what happened was that, sort of 10 days after I graduated, I had a paper, a second author paper, right? And literally my contribution was doing a couple of ELISAs, which is an assay in which you can look for protein levels, and taking temperature of chickens, right? That was my first experience to research. And then I went I applied for scholarships and I could not get in, right? And so then I started doing a master's. That was one of the questions, if you do a master's and you apply for a master's in the US, is that a bad thing? No, it's not. I was doing my master's and, the application process takes a long time. So I graduated and then I had a gap year because it just takes so long while you were doing the GRE and stuff like that. And I had one more paper in my master's, so I had only 2 papers, right? And on the basis of that, I applied. And again, like in my SOP, the schools that I applied to, I made sure that, I outlined this in my SOP, and I made it specific for every school or PI that I applied to. I catered the SOP towards them, saying that, this is the utility, this is how I will stand out, and this is why I'm passionate about this, and this is why I will, help further, your research program. And everybody replied to me. Everybody that I applied to replied to me and invited me for an interview. And everywhere that I applied to in the US, they gave me eventually that professors that I targeted, not schools, but professors that I targeted directly, they all offered me interviews. So that's how I went about it. And then a friend of mine funny story about my Fulbright story was that a friend of mine was praying for the GRE because she wanted to come here independent of Fulbright. She said, let's give the GRE together. And luckily, on the day that I was giving my GRE, it was free because Fulbright needs to get your GRE score. So there's a fee that you need to pay. So the guy came and he said, the test center said, it's free today if you want to send them. So I said, sure, send them. So I sent them, and I got a good GRE score. So I got 321. So then they said that, we've called you for an interview. So then one thing led to another, and I got a Fulbright fellowship. Right. So, but it's not necessary. You can, most of the people that I know, again, you don't need to be Einstein or somebody really brilliant who knows all the ins and outs of applying to the United States, but you just need to be persistent. And that's what Nazmul will tell you, like our journeys are all the same. Like we were not super, successful, having crazy amounts of papers, but we were persistent and we were able to understand that you need to be able to really show that, how you are going to be more of a utility than anybody else that is applying to you. And that's what stands out to professors over here. And I asked people over here, I said, what stands out to you when you look at an application that is coming from the subcontinent, from China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, this area. So I said, what stands out is being personal, like, not sending me some spam that they're sending 20 other people, number one. And number two, showing genuine interest in my research and showing how you can be helpful to my research goals. And if you can do that, I'm telling you, a lot of people will apply to your applications.
Perfect. Do we have more questions?
I think we are done with questions. Yeah. I think we can conclude. And
yeah, so you guys can feel free to you guys can ask us anything. You have our email, and please Fatbhai, if you can also give your email. I'm pretty sure so in the message just put your email also if you can, and then feel free to ask any question. I'm pretty sure we have not touched everything, but just feel free to ask any questions and again give us feedback with the platform that we have built. Feel free to try that one out, and if you guys have any feedback, that will be wonderful. So
I wish we had this when we were applying.
Yes,
if we had
exactly.
if we had gradmate.ai when we were applying, life would have been, I think, maybe at least 60% easier, because we typed out all of this. There was nobody to help us look at English and grammar and make connections between research programs and all that. So this AI tool is really your best friend with experience.
Yes, with experience. Perfect. And definitely we guys even if you guys don't use our platform, I mean, I just want to help people, right? We all wanted to help people. So just if you have any questions, please feel free to ask any sort of question. So with that, we can conclude. Yes.
A last question. Is PT accepted in USA for PhD program, or GRE or GMAT is mandatory?
Well, what is that? What?
PTE,
What?
Pearson Test of English. PTE exam.
I think it's a English proficiency
Proficiency.
test. I think
Yeah,
it's
yes.
more applicable in Australia, I think. I'm not sure if it's applicable in US. In US, generally they take TOEFL and IELTS, but I'm not sure about PTE. Yeah.
I think it's TOEFL and IELTS. I think like Naimul, you showed in your presentation also, right? TOEFL and IELTS. I think are here also.
Yes. Yeah. So with that, like, we can conclude. Unless like you guys have any further question. So what do you think, like, Fardin Bhai, can we conclude now?
Yes, and thanks to all the speakers for your time and your resources. I hope the students will benefit from this video. It will, of course, be archived in our page of the Office of External Affairs. You can go anytime and watch it again. I will also include the email addresses of the speakers in that video, so you can reach out to them anytime. Thank you very much to everyone for joining here.
Perfect.
Let's end this. Goodbye and take care.
Perfect.
Thank
Take
you.
care.